The Cursed Howl. A mystery thriller of a dog, a forgotten town, and a terrifying secret. The road to Black Hollow was as lifeless as the town itself. Overgrown weeds cracked through the pavement, and the trees lining the road loomed like silent watchers. The further Elena Carter drove, the more the air seemed to thicken, as if the town itself was trying to push her away. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. She wasn't here by chance. The letter in her bag was dated 30 years ago, written by Thomas Hawthorne, the last known member of the Hawthorne family before they vanished. "They are coming. The well must not be disturbed. If we vanish, remember, find the dog. He knows the way." Elena didn't believe in ghost stories, but something about this town felt different. As she entered the silent streets, her eyes swept over the abandoned buildings. A few townsfolk stood on their porches, watching her with blank expressions. Their eyes followed her car with eerie stillness. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Then she saw him, a German shepherd standing alone at the edge of the forest. His fur was dark, almost black, but his golden eyes glowed unnaturally in the fading sunlight. The dog from the legend, the one who had never left the Hawthorne estate. Elena stepped out of her car. The dog didn't move, he simply watched her. She took a cautious step forward. "You know something, don't you?" she murmured. The dog's ears twitched. Then, without a sound, he turned and walked into the woods. Elena hesitated. The wind whispered through the trees. "Find the dog, he knows the way." She took a deep breath and followed him into the darkness. The forest swallowed her the moment she stepped inside. The sunlight barely pierced through the thick canopy of trees, casting unnatural shadows that stretched across the ground. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and something rotten. Echo, she had decided to call the dog that, moved ahead silently, his golden eyes flickering between the trees, as if watching something she couldn't see. Elena's pulse quickened. "How do you know where to go?" she asked. Echo didn't respond. Of course he didn't. He was just a dog. Wasn't he? They walked deeper into the woods. The further they went, the colder it became. The air felt wrong, like stepping into a place where time itself had stopped. Then Echo stopped. They stood before an ancient stone well, half buried in moss and vines. Elena felt a sudden, inexplicable wave of nausea. Then a sound, a whisper. "Help us." Elena's breath caught in her throat. She whirled around and froze. A man stood just beyond the tree line, tall, motionless, watching. His coat was long and dark, blending into the trees. His face was hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. "You shouldn't be here," he said calmly. Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. "Who are you?" she demanded. The man took a slow step forward. "Someone who knows when to leave things buried." Echo growled, stepping protectively in front of her. The man sighed. "You found the dog. That's unfortunate for both of you." Then, the ground trembled. The well began to scream, and something crawled out of the darkness below. Elena staggered backward as rotting, skeletal hands burst from the well's depths, clawing at the edges. A low, guttural wail echoed through the trees, sending an unnatural chill through her veins. The man in the coat didn't move. He simply watched. "The Hawthorns tried to stop it," he murmured. "They failed." Elena's breath came in sharp gasps. She took a step back, only to feel something grip her ankle. "Cold, wet, dead," she screamed, kicking frantically. Echo snarled, his sharp teeth sinking into the decayed limb, and with a sickening crunch, the bone shattered into dust. Elena stumbled away, her chest rising and falling in terror. The man in the coat tilted his head. "Ah," he murmured, "so the dog still remembers." The ground cracked. The trees bent unnaturally, as if something unseen was shifting beneath the earth. Then Echo howled, and the world changed. The sound wasn't just a howl. It was a command. The skeletal hands froze, the shadows hesitated. Then, a flood of memories crashed into Elena's mind. The Hawthorns standing at this very spot decades ago, fighting, dying. Echo, younger, but the same, standing between them in the darkness. He had been their protector, and now he was hers. "Elena," the man said softly, "and don't." But she already knew what to do. She reached down and grabbed a jagged stone, and smashed it into the well's rim. A deafening roar filled the air. The skeletal hands disintegrated. The man let out an inhuman shriek, his body twisting and warping as the shadows devoured him. Then silence. The trees stood still, The air warmed, and Echo collapsed. Elena dropped to her knees beside him. His golden eyes, once so fierce, now looked soft, peaceful. "No," she whispered, pressing her hand against his fur. "Stay with me." Echo let out a low whine. He had waited for so long, protected this town, fought alone for decades, and now it was over. His body shimmered, then faded into mist, carried away by the wind. Elena wiped a tear away, and far in the distance, just as the sun began to rise, a howl echoed through the trees, not one of sorrow, but of freedom. Epilogue: The Silent Watcher. Black Hollow was different now. The darkness was gone. Elena told the truth, but not all of it, because sometimes, late at night, she swore she could still feel eyes watching her. And every now and then, when the wind whispered through the trees, she could still hear the echo of a howl. Story No. 2. The story of Rocky, a father's struggle. Rocky was a strong, loyal stray dog who lived in a lonely alley. His fur, once a rich shade of golden brown, had become rough and matted from years of struggling to survive. He had always dreamed of a peaceful life, one where he could roam without fear, where food was not a constant worry, and where he could protect his loved ones without the shadow of death always lurking behind. But fate had other plans for him. One cold night, under the soft glow of the moon, Rocky's mate, a gentle stray named Luna, gave birth to 15 tiny puppies in a small, hidden corner of the alley. Rocky had never felt such joy before. He nuzzled Luna and their newborns, his heart swelling with love and pride. It was the happiest moment of his life, but that happiness was short-lived. As the minutes passed, Rocky noticed something strange. No matter how much he barked or whimpered, none of the puppies reacted. Their tiny bodies moved, their chests rose and fell with breath, but they remained unresponsive to sound. Rocky nudged them, licked their little faces, let out soft whimpers, but still nothing. It was then that the heartbreaking reality sank in. All of his puppies were deaf. Panic gripped Rocky. He turned to Luna, who looked at him with tired but loving eyes. She too had realized the truth, and sadness filled her weary face. Rocky paced anxiously. How would they protect their children? The streets were merciless, full of dangers at every turn. A father's warning bark often saved his pups from lurking threats, but his voice would never reach them. How would they hear him if a car came speeding down the road? How would they hear if a human approached with a stick in hand, ready to chase them away? That night, as Luna curled around their newborns, Rocky stayed awake, watching over them, with eyes full of worry. He knew the world would not be kind to them, but he vowed to protect them, no matter what. Days passed, and survival became harder. Luna, weakened from childbirth, struggled to feed their pups. Rocky knew he had to find food. He wandered through the alleys, sniffing for scraps, but food was scarce. The streets were ruled by humans who despised stray dogs. One evening, after hours of searching, Rocky's nose led him to a small food stall. His stomach ached with hunger, but more than that, he needed to feed his family. As he approached the stall, his tail low, a shopkeeper spotted him. "Get lost, filthy dog," the man shouted, grabbing a bucket of boiling water. Before Rocky could react, the scalding liquid splashed over his back. A sharp, agonized yelp escaped his throat. The burning pain shot through his body, but he didn't stop. He ran, ignoring the agony, because he had to return to his puppies. They needed him. They were waiting for him. They needed him. They were waiting for him. Despite the unbearable pain from his burns, Rocky kept moving. When he reached the alley, Luna licked his wounds, her eyes filled with silent worry. He reassured her with a gentle nudge before turning his attention to their hungry, fragile puppies. He had failed to bring food, but he had not failed them. Not yet. But time was running out. Hunger tormented his children, and sickness loomed over them. One by one, their tiny bodies grew weaker. Luna, too, was fading, her strength failing her. Then Rocky heard whispers from passing humans. Rumors of another country where animals were treated with care, where veterinarians could help even the weakest strays. He made a decision. He would take his puppies there. No matter the struggle, no matter the cost, he would save them. One freezing night, when the city was asleep, Rocky gently carried his puppies one by one out of the alley. Luna, too weak to follow, licked his face one last time before lying down, her body still. Rocky hesitated, whimpering softly. He nudged her, but she did not respond. She was gone. Grief crushed him, but he had no time to mourn. His puppies needed him. He picked them up and moved forward, each step heavier than the last. As he reached the outskirts, Rocky's heart pounded with fear. The open streets were dangerous. And then, disaster struck. A pack of stray dogs caught his scent. Their eyes glowed with hunger. Rocky growled, standing his ground, his body shielding his babies. But he was outnumbered. The dogs lunged. He fought with everything he had, his teeth flashing, his paws striking out, but he was only one dog against many. And then, 2 of his puppies were snatched away. Rocky howled in despair as the pack tore into them. Their tiny bodies went limp, discarded like scraps. The pack lost interest and moved on. Rocky stood frozen, his chest heaving. He licked their lifeless forms, hoping, praying they would move. But they didn't. Tears welled in his dark eyes. But he had no time to grieve. He picked up his remaining puppies and ran. As dawn approached, Rocky reached a park, hoping, desperate for kindness. But kindness was a rare gift in his world. A group of boys spotted him. "Look at this ugly mutt," one of them sneered. "Should we feed it?" another joked, before picking up a stone and hurling it at him. Rocky flinched but did not run. He curled around his puppies, shielding them with his body. But the boys weren't done. One of them grabbed Rocky by the neck and stuffed him into a sack. He thrashed, barking in terror, but their laughter drowned his cries. Moments later, the sack was tossed into a filthy canal. The freezing water filled his lungs. He struggled, clawing at the fabric, desperate to escape. Just when his strength began to fade, the sack was pulled out. A frail old woman had saved him. "You poor thing," she murmured, carrying him and his remaining puppies home. For the first time in weeks, Rocky and his babies were warm and safe. But kindness never lasted long. Days later, the old woman passed away, and Rocky was left on the streets again. His journey continued, more hunger, more beatings, more suffering. But he never gave up. And then, after what felt like a lifetime of pain, he arrived, the country he had dreamed of. With hopeful eyes, he approached a veterinary clinic. A kind doctor examined his puppies. After a long silence, the doctor looked at him with pity. "This condition is genetic," he said softly. "There is no cure." Rocky's heart sank. All his struggles, all his sacrifices. And yet, he could not give them what they needed. But he did not break. Slowly, he learned to communicate with his puppies through touch and movement. He taught them to sense vibrations, to stay alert despite their silence. Years later, Rocky and his children found refuge in a shelter where people began to recognize him as the silent father. His journey had been painful, filled with loss and cruelty, but he never gave up. Because a father, no matter how much he suffers, will fight until his last breath for his children. And Rocky, despite all odds, had won. A story of resilience, love, and the unbreakable bond of a father.